I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey, you guys, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So, yesterday's episode was a doozy. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't sleep last night. I was literally up just thinking about what's going on, chewing on it, educating myself, learning new things about what's going on. I couldn't put it down because what's going on is so severe and so grave. Just a lot of the videos and images were replaying in my head, and it wasn't a peaceful night for me. It wasn't at all. Anywho, I wanted to go ahead and issue a correction up here at the top. The American taxpayer dollars were not actually paid to Iran. This was misreported across a lot of major outlets, and it was actually always Iranian money that had been frozen as part of the sanctions against Iran. It was unfrozen in exchange for the hostages, which is how it was worded on a lot of platforms, but I think it was misconstrued also to be American money that we were giving them, when really it was always Iranian money, always funds that were invested in American companies that were frozen. So now we can sleep at night again. Oh wait, that definitely won't be me anytime soon with everything that's going on, but I digress. I do have a few mini stories that I just wanted to let you guys know about here at the top, and we may double tap on them at a later date to kind of expand on them, because obviously right now this episode needs to be focused on Israel as well. But I wanted to touch on a few subjects first. Let's jump in. First and foremost, RFK Jr. is running for president as an independent. This is a character who is obviously connected to the famous Kennedy family, but he's also connected to conspiracy theories and sort of the modern Trump movement, if you will. So there's a lot to go over there, and I will attempt to come back to this at a later date if things calm down. McCarthy is also now saying that he may run for speaker again after seeing the disarray in his own party following his removal as Speaker of the House. All of this is just nutty because while I was in Santa Fe over the weekend, I was getting, headlines that were saying that now he's thinking of dropping out of Congress midterm. And so things are changing by the hour on this subject, and I believe they're beginning hearings now to start talking about who might be the Speaker of the House, and it's chaos in that neck of the woods. Luckily, the world isn't even focused on it right now, so hopefully by the time things calm down, there will be more answers in that category. I also wanted to let you guys know that we are already seeing Republican candidates drop out of the race. Will Hurd of Texas has officially dropped out of the Republican presidential primaries. And then the last mini story is sort of leading us into our larger story for today. You've probably already heard this statistic by now, but over the weekend, we actually saw the highest number of Jews killed in a single day since the Holocaust. And I want you to understand that there are people out there in the world who are celebrating that fact. Understand that. That is disgusting and is not something that any of us should take lightly. All of us here in the U.S., I would think, have Jewish friends and even friends that we consider to be family. So just make sure that they are safe and make sure they know you are thinking of them in no uncertain terms. And I just wanted to put that statistic out here at the top of this episode because it is very alarming. And without further ado, we will spend the rest of this episode today updating you guys about Israel and clarifying the situation. Let's jump in. So obviously, I have to issue a content warning. This story involves war and all the horror that comes with it. So, some Israel updates. First and foremost, News du Jour condemns all violence. I personally am a Catholic, and the only violence that we believe in is when it follows the strict guidelines as put forth by the Catholic Church and is always in an effort to protect innocent lives. I want to make something clear today. Both Israeli Jews and the Palestinian people have ancient ties to this small piece of land that they are fighting over. In fact, many groups have ancient ties to it, but that definitely includes the Jews. Equating Palestinians to native groups here in the US and Jews to Western settlers is a false equivalency. It is simply not the same thing. In this situation, both groups have very ancient ties to this land. Both groups have been persecuted and have survived many waves of invasion, oppression, and violence at the hands of outside invaders, but none as grave as what the Jews have endured since the beginning of time. Suggesting that they are occupying a land that their ancestors have lived in for millennia makes no sense. You cannot occupy your own ancestral land. It's also important to understand that Palestine is not a country and has never been an official country. It was a territory that was part of the Ottoman and then British Empire, but it was never under its own rule. Before World War II and the Oslo Accord, the pieces of land that make up Israel were part of the British Empire. Palestine was a term initially coined by the Greeks, who tried to strip the Jews of Judea, their ancestral land that was named after the people who lived there anciently, the Jews. The name Palestine was then perpetuated from the Greeks, then to the British. There isn't even a P sound in the Arabic language. That term was invented by invaders who wanted to displace Jews. Judea is Israel, and it is incredibly ancient. Now, are there Arab Muslim people who feel displaced by Jewish Israelis? Absolutely. Is their feeling of displacement legitimate? Absolutely. The land was taken by force through a war in 1948, but there has never been a formal country called Palestine, and the Jews are also completely native to this area. They cannot be equated to Western settlers. Both groups deserve stability, respect, safety for their lives and their traditions. And horrific violence has been perpetrated by both groups in the name of their respective freedom from one another. And while the Islamic faith has many heritage sites around the Arab world, this is the most sacred place to the Jews. It's a religiously significant place to both religions and Christianity for that matter. There have been far more casualties on the Palestinian side of this conflict, and that's largely because they are not an official country with an official military, whereas Israel is a country with a military. These two places are not evenly stacked. That said, Israel, when faced with outright terrorism at the hands of Hamas, is forced to react. They can't allow for the killing of hundreds of innocent civilians, hundreds of abductions of hostages, and rape cases in the hundreds. No. And if you think you would turn the other cheek in their shoes, I don't really know what to tell you. Innocents have to be protected, and Hamas literally slaughtered them just this weekend. And Israel is responding brutally. Now, let's catch up to the present. Here is what happened since yesterday. Israel came to the U.S. asking for further weapons. Israel has ordered the invasion of Gaza so as to shut down Hamas and retrieve the hostages. There are thought to be about 150 hostages, mostly women and children. As mentioned yesterday, Hamas is threatening to execute a hostage for every airstrike against them. Israel struck hundreds of targets in Gaza, including refugee camps where they believe Hamas to be organizing, schools, and religious sites such as mosques. The devastation has been unimaginable. At least 14 Americans have been killed, according to President Biden and U.S. intelligence. Others are believed to be held hostage right now as part of this whole hostage situation in Gaza. Israel has retaken towns that were initially seized by Hamas. The U.S., France, Great Britain, Germany, and Italy signed a joint statement condemning the violence Hamas has inflicted and promising to help defend Israel. Hamas has said that they are willing to come to the negotiating table, although I think that comment has gone unresponded to. Don't quote me on that, though. People across the Middle East and in New York protested in support of Palestinians, but people across the world protested in support of Israel. Atrocities have been committed on both sides of this conflict. Everyone on this small strip of land, and around the world for that matter, deserves safety, infrastructure, freedom, joy, and abundance. Israeli Jews and Muslim Palestinians, and really everyone living in this area, has been through so much. I wish I could say that it was ending soon, but we just don't see that in the forecast. So if there's anything else to update you guys on or clarify, we will be here to do that. And I just ask that any questions or clarifications that you would like to make be sent via DM or email respectfully. Anything that comes with a disrespectful tone, I'm not going to read it. So at the end of the day, if you want this to be a place of, conversation around this topic and education around this topic, we need to keep it at least respectful. And that is the minimum. It doesn't have to be positive, happy, joyful, but respectful is the bare minimum that I'm willing to accept in my messages. So just wanted to clarify that. And again, if you do have any legitimate questions, feel free to send them via email or DM. It's just, the attacking kind of messages that aren't going to be tolerated in here. And that for today is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote: "Establishing lasting peace is the work of educators." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review on that platform or a shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us to be able to keep creating the news du jour and reach more people who need a calmer space to consume the news. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/Sugar Free Media, and that is also linked in our show notes. You can follow us on social media at newsdujour.podcast on both Instagram and TikTok. You can follow my personal account at It's Annie Bowles on both platforms as well. Any little noises you may hear in the background are my rescue pup. He has a little separation anxiety and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour. Broadcasting from Oklahoma.